Wherever you could be, I would like to say thank you so much for being part of the biggest TV in Arua City. Of course, this is the Sports Desk Show live here on the TV. Of course, my name is Senior Zero, the host of the show. Of course, with you, we shall be discussing a number of sporting stories developing as far as the day is concerned. Of course, the World Cup is trying to show competition. Of course, Lionel Messi has now become the faster and the oldest player to score a hat-trick in the World Cup actual history. We shall be discussing that with you. Of course, England will be in action today against Croatia. Of course, our neighbors, DRC Congo, will be playing against Cristiano Ronaldo's team. I'm talking about Portugal. I'll be discussing that with you. Of course, I'll be connecting to Rubanga Kennemorris, who is currently in DR Congo. We shall be discussing actually with him in length what are the preparations levels in DR Congo regarding their game with the Portugal. Of course, we shall be discussing in length with Rubanga Kennemorris. What is the situation currently in DR Congo? Of course, it's now going to be one of the biggest things for them. Of course, Congo has been a team that has actually spent like half a decade for them to qualify for the World Cup, and finally the team is already playing in the World Cup, and we shall be discussing that with Rubanga Kennemorris, who is currently in there. Those are some of the biggest things that I'll be discussing with him. And before I go for that, of course, Rubanga Kennemorris is already online. Let's first connect to him and we discuss that game first before we go into some other details. Rubanga Kennemorris.
Yes, Jero. Good morning.
How are you, man?
I am fine. How are you, bro?
I'm okay. In Uganda, it's already 10 a.m. in the morning. What's the time session in the DR Congo? It's already in the morning hours. Is it 9?
In DR Congo, it's still 7 minutes past 9.
7 minutes past 9, huh? Of course, here we are 7 minutes past 10 in the morning.
So Uganda is ahead 1 hour.
Yeah.
Ahead 1 hour.
Yeah. Then how's Congo?
Congo is good. Congo is it's shining, a little bit hot at the moment. Yeah, and the whole situation is just people are happy because Congo is playing today. So everybody is just kind of putting on the jersey. The whole street of Ruara is on fire. So you can just imagine how they are trying to be happy about their home game.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before we talk about the World Cup today that Congo will be playing against Portugal, let's first talk about the issue of the reforms that the FIFA has actually inserted to all the clubs, that the clubs have to assign the new rules that they will be playing under in the next game that will be coming in the Southern Ghana Premier League. Of course, it has been confirmed that the new reforms are kind of a statement of its own, that we shall be having what call the new format that was introduced last season in the Southern Ghana Premier League this season. What are you expecting in these reforms?
You see, the new reforms, Jero, of Ugandan Premier League kind of rules, on my side, I'm seeing as if it's a little bit killing the meaning of football in Uganda. Actually, it's degenerating level of football in Uganda because you cannot give out a rule. For example, let me give out a clear example, like our club, that is the young club that is Green Forest FC.
Yes.
You cannot give us a big rule that we should be having actually a qualified coach on the tight line. Yet we don't have actually even the money for paying these coaches. Where we raise our money? First of all, at the first point, Uganda haven't trained enough coaches, even for the national team. Now, secondly, if you come back down up to Division 4, whereby now you are even changing to Division 5,
yes,
there is also already Division 6. I think the standard of football, we are not supposed to do it like that. The best kind of like creating football become nice is create more academies, more let the under 17, under 20, under 23 games goes on throughout the season. You support it, you monitor the same way how they brought up those of Alan Okello under the Coca-Cola system. So for me, on my side, I'm seeing the president is a little bit messing up. He's running out of ideas on what to do. One, you're creating out such rules, but how many? If you look at the training ground in Uganda, we have only one training ground in Uganda, which is Kyambogo.
Yes.
So I remember there was a year when Magogo was in Arua at the Tropical Shoots Hotel.
Exactly.
He mentioned something that nowadays being near the president of Uganda is quite good. Those days they used to get only 4 billion, but nowadays they can get 20 billion for developing football in Uganda. Now I fired him a question. If you are getting now 20 billion from the president for developing football in Uganda, then why don't you put every region to be having a training ground, like Western region at least one good training ground, Central one, Northern one, West Nile and Northern, you can combine it to be one because we are one. The Eastern one, so that we have a lot of training facilities in Uganda. So you don't talk about football only. Go in all the various categories of sports in Uganda. There are even some sports in Uganda which is not known by Magogo himself. Because if you look at the saga of netballers, now again saga of footballers here. So for me, the idea of changing the rules was not the point.
Yes.
The point is, create more academies, follow the tournament. The players that you send them out for, like going outside countries playing. I remember under Mulindwa, he has been my best president so far ever, because I could see the likes of Oloya playing in Beijing. I could see the likes of David Obua shining in Scotland every weekend, every day is on a newspaper. Those are the kind of people we wanted on the ground. You look at so I'll go viral about this issue because, one, it has already killed the meaning of football. Right now, there's no any village football that you can find. Those days, I remember, I grew up within Chivuli.
Yes.
I used to play my football within Chivuli. So a nearby tournament, we could even raise up and buy a goat or maybe a cow or a bull. They compete with. Look at the 4th division competition. Look at the application fee that we are paying. Look at the participation fee that clubs are paying. Where is this money going? No any match day ball, like a match day ball that DFA can buy for the tournament. So it had killed from the DFA itself plus the president. Because if the chairman of DFA Arua City, Arua district could even proudly tell Magogo that in 8 years it is his first time seeing the president. I went back to the same question and I said it is true, Magogo, you're unreachable. Even this chairman of ours is unreachable because of one thing: no offices for the DFAs. Now, how can I develop football when I have the idea of maybe organizing a tournament? I have to consult DFA in case I need to give them something so that I run my tournament well. Nowadays, getting these people in the offices, they don't have offices.
Yes.
Look for their phone numbers. You understand?
Yeah.
So is there football? Is there really football in Uganda at the moment? You go back to secondary games, it has lost meaning actually in West Nile, in West Nile and totally West Nile. Football, those days secondary games, let me tell you, it used to be the beauty. Our parents could come and watch us playing. Nowadays, there is no any parent who is actually even admiring going to see the son displaying the talent, or even you see the daughter kind of having the talent. So whereby you look at, I'm going to give you a good example of Koboko. Koboko did not announce the winners of the secondary game. Yes. Why? It ended up in chaos. What does this show? Our matches now is being taken to different villages. So like it's losing the meaning. Even identifying the talent itself right now, it's hard in Uganda because most of the things they're doing it blind door. You understand? Yeah. So for me, the changes that FUFA did, they didn't start far. They were doing it for their own benefit, because if the president can say, if you don't have enough money for managing a club, you better leave a club. But you ask yourself, did he started managing did he started building his school with enough money? Of course, you start like they say, Rome was not built in one day. You understand?
Yeah.
So this is where we got it wrong. So football to come back in Uganda, I think we need a president like Mulindwa. Magogo is not fit for being a president. I'm talking this on media on media, but I'm not afraid of saying it. He's not fit for being a FUFA president in Uganda. He's more of a political football person. Because if you go back to Uganda itself.
Yes.
Now they have changed the system.
Yes.
Where are we going with the system? That means you have killed the 4th division teams. You have killed the 5th division teams because, believe or not, Jero, there is no any club in Uganda. Even if his team can even fail to pay players. Look at where Onduparaka is. If Onduparaka can stay like for 6 months without playing players, they even now gamble the way of signing players.
Yes.
So like now you bring the rules to a bigger club. That means they want to choose their own clubs that can benefit them. Like let's say if you go to Saudi Pro League,
yes,
I think there are some clubs which are for government.
Yes.
Government owners. You look at Al Nassr, those are the government owners club. So if Mulindwa wants to bring that in Uganda, it will benefit him. But it will not benefit the club owners. Okay? So that rule for me on my side, Jero, they have to go sit down and revise it again.
Okay,
it is not going to help football develop in Uganda.
Okay, Morris, let's first talk about Padre Lions game that will be played against Pakwach Young Stars at Luo Grounds. Of course, the retired league will be played at Luo Grounds. Of course, the first league was played at Padula Stadium down in Gulu City, and Team Padula Lions had to beat this team of Pakwach Young Stars by a 1-0 in there. What are you expecting in this? Of course, I know you come from northern Uganda. What's your feeling like to have a team in the big league from Gulu City?
Fine, they've been fighting so hard. Going out, I remember last season they tried their best. They came closer, they didn't make it. And this time, I think it could be their way through. Yeah, they don't have a well-experienced coach like the way Pakwach Young Stars have. Pakwach has got one of the most talented veteran in Uganda. His name will always be there in Uganda. That is Cesar Samson Okuti. But since these guys managed to take that advantage of a 1-0 victory over Pakwach Young Stars, I think the Gulu people, like the Nen people, I think they could build their trust on this team. Because now, if you look at the capacity, where they can, like, I think in terms of finance, I could say they have the upper hand at Pakwach Young Stars.
Yes.
And if you look at the fundraising system, they also still have a better chance. So for me, technically, I think it's a high time these guys they will qualify for the first time.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, but technically, on the pitch, the coach they have, Pakwach Young Stars, is more experienced than Padula Young Stars coach.
All right, thanks so much, Moritz, for giving us that actual information about the team Padula Lions. Okay, let's first talk about the World Cup games. Of course, yesterday there were games played over in the World Cup, but the biggest one was this game that Senegal, played against France. It was France who rose to the occasion and managed to beat them by 3-1. How did you rate the performance of Senegal against France?
In the midfield, if you look at the midfield, was a little bit quiet. They managed it well. The only problem I saw with Senegal was Sarr was not performing his real duty. He was playing at the right flank. Then they made Diatta to play number 3, whereby Diatta never used to be. He used to actually go at the flank. So he was playing at the right back. They did a clinical finish. Started with
Jackson.
With the goal scorer. No, Jackson didn't score. This guy, I'm forgetting this guy who plays in Premier League. Not Diaby. His name
Therefore,
is funny, but he's quite good. Diali is quite good.
Yes.
Just kind of like a scammer, and for me, ever since Jackson.
Oh, our signal can't actually allow us to continue with Rubanga Kenemorit. Of course, he is in a DR Congo. Of course, we're on the network. Is not all that clear in DR Congo. Of course, we shall get back to him in a very short while, because still in Uganda, there's a big one for Lugazi FC, as they have now appointed former Bull FC Taksin. I'm talking about Abeti Komeko Bulgaria. Of course, Abeti Komeko is actually a CAF A Lancest coach actually in Uganda, and this team of Lugazi FC have now appointed him on a 2 years contract. Of course, he will be stadium is going to be one of added a lot of spice in there. Of course, Abeti Komeko, one of the most experienced coaches in Ugandan football, is going to be at the helm, and he will be doing ones and twos with Lugazi FC. Of course, Lugazi FC is one of the institutional clubs in the country, and we are going to be seeing how he will be assembling that team of Lugazi FC. Of course, we did see Lugazi FC in the last 3 consecutive seasons. The team has been grappling with survival hopes in the Southern Ghana Premier League, but apparently the team is still into the league, and we shall be seeing how Abeti Komeko is going to be transforming this team of Lugazi FC. Of course, Lugazi FC is one of the biggest and institutional clubs in the country, and we shall be seeing how he will be transforming this team. Of course, he has coached a number of teams here in Uganda, but most notably he has been with the Shirina Jinda SS of now time to be Busoga United. Of course, he was the one who promoted this team back to the Southern Ghana Premier League way back in 2016. That's when he was at the helm, and he had an impressive season with them, and he also coached Jinda SS, in which he also won for them the prestigious Coca-Cola after the tournament with them in 2017, and he was notable in also coaching Mbala Heroes in last season. Sometimes Ghana Premier League in there, but though Mbala Heroes was relegated, and his experience is one of the biggest things that Lugazi FC was targeting, and he is currently gonna be the head coach of Lugazi FC on a 2 years contract. Of course, he comes with a lot of experience when it comes to Ugandan football. He is good in that. Of course, he has been one of the darlings at Bull FC when he was still coaching Bull FC. Remember, he was in that team of Bull, whereby Bull won 2 actual successive what we call Super Cup finals with him. Of course, in 2023 and 2024 respectively, Team Bull FC were the champions in that perspective, and he also made sure that the Bull finished the season in that actually year in the number 2nd position. That was one of the biggest achievements that Abeti Komeko did at the Bull. Of course, he will not be at Lugazi FC, where there's a small money that is there. Of course, Lugazi FC is one of the institutional clubs in the country, and he will be doing a lot of ones and twos with that team of Lugazi FC. We shall be seeing how he will be transforming that team. Of course, Lugazi FC is going to be one of the talking points under Abeti Komeko. Of course, his experience matters a lot. Of course, he has understood the Ghana football, and with the new reform that football president Makago is calling clubs actually to adapt to, we are going to be seeing whether this team will be actually thriving in the new format of Uganda Premier League next season. So that still remains to be seen how Abeti Komeko will be cementing things for Lugazi FC. And of course, in the World Cup yesterday, games were played. Of course, the biggest one was between France and Senegal. Of course, we did see Kylian Mbappe scoring twice against the Senegal, and I can confirm to you this was one of the biggest games played yesterday. Before I analyze to you some of the few things that I witnessed in this game, let me just take you through the games that were played yesterday. In the World Cup, did you see Austria beating Jordan by 3-1? Argentina were 3-0 winners over Algeria, and then Iraq were beaten 4-1 by Norway. Of course, Haaland of Manchester City was again in his first debut in the World Cup. He also made sure that he scores twice for his country, Norway. Then France were 3-1 winners over Senegal. This is where my talking point is gonna be. Of course, already see France in the first half. They were a team that everyone thought that they were going to lose this game completely. Of course, team Senegal were the Lions when it comes to those kind of chances created in the first half. Of course, team Senegal had like 5 chances, clear chances in the first half, and Jackson was the player who was very, very wasteful for them. Ismail Sarr was one of them, and that kind of coached them in the later stages of the game, and I can confirm to you that in the first half, both teams saw the discipline, both teams saw the composure, both teams saw the what we call resilience in this perspective. But when it comes to the second half, that's when Team Senegal lost concentration on the way, and Team France had to beat them by 3-1. Kylian Mbappe rose to the occasion and opened the scoring for them before Bakola came with the second, and Kylian Mbappe added the last one in the closing stages of the game. That means that Team France ensured a 2-1 win over Senegal. I can confirm to you that this is one of the biggest games that Senegal played against, and it was one of the most unexpected things for France to win this game, just because yesterday when I was here for the show, I did say that this team of France is capable of beating Senegal with a huge scoreline in there, and indeed it happened like how I actually previewed it here on for you. So that's clear to the Senegal are the clear favorites to win the World Cup. So it still remains to be seen whether the team can be in position to do in the, of course, in the World Cup so far. We have seen a number of youngsters performing to the beat. Of course, Haaland in his first debut for Norway, he also scored a brace. Then Kylian Mbappe in the opening game for France, he also scored a brace. That clearly says that there's a lot that is currently ongoing in the World Cup, but that was the beautiful game that I've watched so far in the World Cup, whereby there's a lot of free movement, there's a lot of there's a lot of tackle, there's a lot of discipline, there's a lot of beauty shown on the pitch. But I can confirm to you that Senegal played one of the biggest, beautiful games in the first half, but in the second half, the team actually lost concentration on the way. That's why Team France managed to overcome them in the second half. Of course, Team France has got all the machineries to actually to punish any other team in the World Cup. Of course, they are still my favorites to win the World Cup alongside Spain in that perspective. Of course, in the World Cup today, we shall be having a series of games coming up in the World Cup. Of course, Portugal will be playing against DR Congo, who have stayed half a decade without a World Cup football. Of course, finally, they will be playing against Portugal, the Cristiano Ronaldo's team in the World Cup at 8 p.m. Then England will be playing against Croatia at 11 p.m. But the biggest one is Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi. We did see yesterday, Lionel Messi scoring a hat-trick in the World Cup. Cristiano Ronaldo also cements actually his name in the World Cup by firing a hat-trick, or more goals in the World Cup today. It still remains to be seen whether this can be important to happen, but I can confirm to you that Lionel Messi is a player of his own, and he is still regarded as the GOAT in the big stage, and he scored a hat-trick against Algeria yesterday. So it still remains to be seen whether Cristiano Ronaldo will be important to score a hat-trick against this team of DR Congo. This is one of the beautiful things that we shall be witnessing in that game. Of course, Cristiano Ronaldo matches he had fracas in the dressing room, and I can confirm to you, Roberto Martinez has got a huge task to do. Of course, Ronaldo has a big ego in that team of Portugal, and with Bruno Fernandes, with his record at Manchester United, with his form currently, but I'm quite sure he can be important to assist Cristiano Ronaldo with a number of assists in the World Cup. Of course, Ronaldo is one of the top scorers in the World Cup so far. Of course, Lionel Messi is the current all-time scorer in the World Cup with 16 goals, followed by Kroos with Milosevic, Kroos with 16 goals, and then Cristiano Ronaldo is having 15 goals. If Cristiano Ronaldo can be important to score 2 more goals or is a hat-trick, he will surpass Lionel Messi's record in the World Cup. So it still remains to be seen whether this will be happening tonight in the game that Portugal will be playing against this team of DR Congo. Of course, Portugal has got a number of young stars in that team. Bruno Fernandes is on form. Bernardo Silva of this world in the team. Vitinha of this world in the team. Portugal is full of world stars who are champions in their respective clubs. Of course, Vitinha is a UEFA Champions League winner with Paris. Of course, Cristiano Ronaldo is as well a winner with what we call Al Nassr down in Saudi Pro League. Of course, they were the champions in the Saudi Pro League. So it still remains to be seen whether these players can be important to replicate their forms and transform that into the national team of Portugal against DR Congo. Of course, this is going to be a big game to watch at 8 p.m. DR Congo up against Portugal. Of course, my good friends in DR Congo, the likes of Yamira, the likes of Yadzeme, you guys, I'm quite sure you will be gracing up this game, and we shall be having one-on-one chats with you after the match. Of course, in the world of transfers, there's a huge one. Tottenham Hotspur have joined a three-way actual team to fight for the services of Sandro Tonali from Newcastle United. These are some of the biggest things that's currently happening in the transfer market. Of course, Manchester United have said that the asking price for Marcus Rashford after Barcelona failed to sign him on loan. I'll be discussing for you some of the biggest transfers. Of course, I've told you the Sandro Tonali saga, then the Marcus Rashford saga. These are the biggest, but I'll be discussing that in a very, very short while in there. Tottenham Hotspur have been encouraged to compete with Arsenal, Manchester City for Italy midfielder Sandro Tonali, where the Newcastle United asking price for the 26-year-old is expected to be around £100 million for his services. Sandro Tonali is a player of his own. His form at Newcastle United last season was one of the beautiful one for him, and Tonali alongside Anthony Gordon at Newcastle. These were the darlings for Newcastle United last season in the English Premier League, but apparently his actual counterpart, I'm talking about Anthony Gordon, was signed by Barcelona in a few weeks ago, and clubs are not intensifying an interest in his service. Of course, Manchester City is already talking about him, Spurs and the Zabi are already talking about him, Manchester United is talking about him, Arsenal is talking about him, Ingrid Paris Saint-Germain are already talking about him. That clearly says that there is a huge demand for him. Of course, team Newcastle United are in the business so far right now. Of course, they got a bummer money for the services of Anthony Gordon, who was sold to Barcelona for a fee of around £65 million, and this guy, in the names of Sandro Tonali, is already in the market, and a number of clubs already interested in his services, and this clearly says that the team Newcastle United can be important to get in a good amount of money. Around 100 million actually shillings is actually what this team of Newcastle are saying, that if any club is interested in his services, they can be important to let the player go. Of course, we are going to be seeing how this will be happening. Of course, he is a player who can dictate the tempo of the game. He can play who can insert moves. That's Sandro Tonali for you. So it still remains to be seen whether Spurs, Arsenal, Newcastle United, or the not Newcastle United, Manchester City, or the Manchester United will be important to lure the services of Sandro Tonali in the Premier League with that's also the price in there. Of course, Real Madrid are plotting an 80 million swap for Manchester. This is actually part of center back. I'm talking about Ruben Day 29. Of course, Real Madrid are desperately interested in rebuilding, and they want to sign the experienced Manchester City defender. I'm talking about Ruben Diaz in 80 million swap. Which player will Real Madrid give to Manchester City for the services of this guy? Of course, Manchester City are looking for a defensive midfielder, but the defensive midfielder currently at Real Madrid is Eduardo Camavinga. Then we do have players like Aurelio Tchouameni of this world. They are into the mix, and it still remains to be seen whether that deal can be important to happen. Of course, Manchester United have valued Marcus Rashford at £40 million in any club actually interested in his services, but they are not willing to sell the player to Liverpool and Manchester City respectively. So apart from Liverpool and Manchester City, any club that comes for Marcus Rashford at a fee of around £40 million, Manchester United are ready to let the player go. Of course, Marcus Rashford has suffered a number of consequences at Manchester United. Of course, when he was at the Manchester United under Ruben Amorim, he was actually given that playing time. He has been criticized by Ruben Amorim when he was still the head coach of Manchester United. The Marcus Rashford is not living to the billion at Manchester United, and he's not performing to the billion. Of course, he loaned him at Aston Villa, and at Aston Villa, Marcus Rashford actually redeemed himself and scored a number of goals for Aston Villa. He improved Aston Villa to some extent before Manchester United had to let him go to Barcelona on loan. And at Barcelona, he also had actually an outstanding performance with the Barcelona Football Club, and he scored a number of goals with the Barcelona Football Club, and provided some assists, around 6 or 8 assists in the Spanish La Liga last season for Barcelona. in there, but Barcelona opted not to sign him, and Marcus Rashford, as I thought, he is back at Manchester United, and Manchester United are saying that they are ready to sell him to any club apart from Liverpool and Manchester City. So it still remains to be seen whether this deal will be important to happen. Of course, Manchester United will be playing in the Champions League, and they are saying that Marcus Rashford services is not much that needed at Old Trafford right now. Of course, they a number of superstars already at Manchester United, Brian Belmont, this were the Martinez Cunhas of this world, and there's a big actual settlement that Michael Carrick is saying that he wanted to use this player I'm talking about, Park Dogo, as a forward in the English Premier League in next season. In of course, the Premier League actual trophies, fixtures will be officially released on Friday. We shall be seeing other Manchester will be playing against the West team. Those are some of the things that we shall be following closely in the Premier League. Of course, Manchester are also interested in West Ham United's actually pair. I'm talking about Matheus Fernandes and Somerville, but the relegated Hammers say that if Manchester United are interested in this player's services, Manchester United has to pay a fee of around £40 million for the services of these two players. Of course, already see this player I'm talking about, Somerville, also having an elite performance with West Ham United last season, provided 8 assists and scored 6 actually crucial important goals for West Ham United before they were relegated into the Champions League, into the Championship in there. And Matheus Fernandes has been a fantastic player in that perspective, and Manchester United are saying that they wanted the services of all these two players, and West Ham United are saying if truly Manchester United wanted the two players' services, they have to pay a fee of around £140 million in there, and we're going to be seeing whether the Glazners can be in position to give this money for Manchester United to sign these two players. Of course, Arsenal have agreed personal terms with the France midfielder Manu Kone, but not yet. Still yet to agree with Roma for a fee. But Roma are saying that if any club is interested for the services of the France midfielder, the club has to pay a fee of around €50 million, which is equivalent to £43.2 million for his services. This is according to Gazzetta dello Sport down in Italy. But I can confirm to you that this player in the names of Manu Kone is a fantastic player. Of course, he has already raised personal agreements with the Arsenal Football Club. It's not down to Arsenal to who have actually an agreement with the Roma for his service, but he is a fantastic player. He's a box-to-box midfielder. He is a player who plays in the number 8 role. He's good in that, and he is equally good when it comes to playing in the defensive setup. Of course, he can play number 6 role extremely very well. Of course, he is a good in the middle of the back. He's good in those long passes. He's a very, very dynamic player, and he is good when it comes to giving a lot of physicality in the middle of the pack. Of course, Arsenal has been lacking a player in the shape of Thomas Partey's caliber. Manu Kone is a perfect player that I think can come and probably replace Thomas Partey at Arsenal Football Club. Of course, his physicality alone is good compared to the one of Thomas Partey at Arsenal Football Club. Did you see Arsenal Football Club in the open chances of the Premier League suffer a lot just because of the services of Thomas Partey, just because of his physicality in the middle of the park. But I can tell you, this player in the names of Manu Kone is a fantastic player, given the fact that he is of African origin, and he has got actually physical fitness in him, and he's very, very strong in the middle of the park. But I'm sure if Arsenal can be important to however, that actual agreement with Roma, this could be one of the biggest things for Arsenal Football Club in the middle of the park. Of course, we did see the like of Martin Zubimendes of this world are not actually really doing extremely very well in the middle of the park. Of course, they are not all that strong enough at the middle of the park for Arsenal Football Club. But this player in the names of Manu Kone is a fantastic player, very strong on the ball, and his actual movements is always very good. And the beauty with him is his versatility. He can play in the number 8 role, number 10 role can be there. Then in the number 6 position, he is good in that. That's Manu Kone for you. So we are yet going to be seeing whether Arsenal can be in position to strike this. Of course, player to Arsenal deal is already agreed. Now the only thing remaining is for Arsenal to reach an agreement with FC Roma to see that this deal comes to pass. Of course, Liverpool already in talks with RB Leipzig. Of course, the efforts are already going higher and higher, and they wanted to sign the RB Leipzig winger. I'm talking about Jan Diomate. Of course, he's a fantastic player. Of course, Anthony Rolla is a big admirer of this player, and they are saying that they wanted him to be the direct replacement for Mosala. Of course, he comes from Ivory Coast, only 19 years old. He's a fantastic player. He is going to be one of the biggest players to talk about, so quick on the ball, and he is an electric player. But I think if he comes in that team of Liverpool, he could be one of the biggest players to talk about. Of course, Manchester City and Chelsea have made contact with the Italy right back. I'm talking about Marco Palestra. Of course, they are saying that they wanted the services of this player, but it still remains to be seen whether these two teams can be important to have a deal for the services of this 21-year-old Atalanta actually play in the. Of course, Al Hilal have renewed the actual contract over a potential move for Barcelona's Rafinha, but the Brazil for 29 does not want to discuss his future until the World Cup ends. Of course, Rafinha has been one of the players to talk about in that team of Barcelona Football Club in there. But now with the arrival of Anthony Gordon at that team of Barcelona Football Club, there's no actual space for Rafinha right now. But maybe that's because of due to the fact that the Barcelona didn't have the squad depth. But I think it's not high that a player of his caliber needed to go out and probably make money for himself. Of course, Rafinha has been one of the outstanding players ever since he stepped at Leeds United. That's when the Barcelona spotted him, and he was one of the biggest players to talk about for Leeds United when he was still playing in the Premier League. But at the Barcelona Football Club, he was also doing extremely very well for Barcelona Football Club. And now the competition is very huge at Barcelona with the Yamal on the other side, and then Anthony Gordon already on the other side. There is now a huge dilemma that he can be a bench material at Barcelona Football Club. Of course, Al Hilal are now saying that they wanted him to come to the Saudi Pro League, so it still remains to be seen whether Rafinha can be important to quit Barcelona and join the Saudi Pro League side. Of course, Everton are exploring the possibility of signing 26-year-old Belgium striker. I'm talking about Luis Openda on loan to buy a deal from Juventus. So it still remains to be seen whether Juventus can allow Openda to join Everton. Of course, now Premier League clubs are already interested in his services, including Leeds United and Nottingham Forest. They are also interested in the services of Openda in the Premier League. Of course, Marseille are open to offers for England midfielder. I'm talking about Endo Gomez, and they are saying that if any club is interested in his services, they are ready to cast out the player. Of course, I can tell you that a number of Premier League clubs, including Coventry and Hull City, are amongst the clubs that are already interested in the 25-year-old services. Of course, he was last season he was on loan at Wolves and Marseille, saying that if any club is united in services, he is ready to go. Of course, this player I'm talking about, Endo Gomez, of course, he's an academic graduate of Manchester United, and at Manchester United, the player was one of the unsung heroes, and Manchester United had to let him go. And Marcel said that they are here for his service, and Marcel had to sign him for Manchester United. And after that, Marcel had to loan him to Wolves, where he had a short spell in the team of Wolves before Marseille said that they are now ready to sell the player in that perspective. Of course, Inter Milan have become the latest team to express interest in signing France midfielder Eduardo Camavinga 23 from Real Madrid, and they are saying that they are badly in need of the services of Eduardo Camavinga, the France international. Of course, Eduardo Camavinga is a fantastic player. He is still very young, 23 years old, but I think a club like Inter Milan, if he goes in there, he could be a good addition in the team of Inter Milan. Of course, Jose Felix Moreno at Real Madrid, he did say that this player is not into his plans, and it's high time that Eduardo Camavinga needed to find a space for him to play, such that he becomes a regular call-up into that team of France in there. Of course, Brighton are not willing to pay Tottenham Hotspur actually 60 million asking price for the 19-year-old across the centre back. I'm talking about Luka Kotovic, of course, who spent last season on loan at Hamburg down in Germany. In that perspective, and we are going to be seeing how this will be important to happen. Of course, already the sacked Chelsea coach, I'm talking about this player, the coach Liam Rosner is already luring offers, and Paris FC has spoken to former Chelsea and Strasbourg boss. I'm talking about Liam Rosner about the possibility of replacing Antoine in the in a few weeks' time. Of course, he is one of the coaches that has been lined up for Paris FC's job at down in France League One. So it still remains to be seen whether this guy can be important to go at Paris FC. Of course, he was at Strasbourg down in France League One. It still remains to be seen whether he can be in position to join that team of Paris FC down in France League One. My time is up, and to close the studio for the next program to come in. Of course, the task Florence is already coming with the news bulletin in a few hours time. Bye bye for now.